In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make two separate necklaces. One of them is a linked bead necklace and the other is a fine chain necklace with a bead cluster at the end. The idea behind these necklaces is that you can wear them together or separately, but either way they look fantastic. You can make these necklaces from materials that you have at home, but if you want to buy our kits, the link for the kits is below, and we have them in a silver version and in a gold version. I'm going to start off by making my linked bead necklace, and for this necklace I will be using 50 4mm bicone beads, 50 eye pins, 7 2mm jump rings, 6 5mm jump rings. I have a clasp, and I've got an extra bead and a ball pin which I'm going to put at the end of my extender. And the tools that I'm using to make this necklace are my round nose pliers, my flat nose pliers, and some cutters. I'm going to start by pinning and looping my beads, and I'm going to do them in groups of 10. It's just easier. Now that I've pinned my first 10 beads, I'm going to bend them, cut them and loop them. Before you start looping your beads, it's quite important to remember for this necklace that the loops will need to be quite even. And your round nose pliers are tapered, so as you work your way down the plier, the size of your loop changes. It's best to try and keep to the same place every time. You could mark it with a little pencil, or just remember that when you're looping your bead, you don't want it completely at the top because it will be very small. But if I usually do it about 1/4 centimeter down. So then when I make my loop, they'll all come out more or less the same size. Now that I've finished pinning and looping my first 10 beads, I'm going to do exactly the same for all the other colours. Now that I've pinned and looped all my beads, there's just a couple of housekeeping things that I'm going to do. The first is I'm going to keep all my offcuts, because there's enough offcuts here to make another whole necklace. So I'm just going to put them in a little bag. And I do have a video showing you how to turn these into eye pins and recycle them, and again I will just put the link on the top of the screen for you. The next thing I'm going to do is make sure that all my loops are properly closed and they're also facing the right direction. This way when I join them it's going to look a lot more professional, because they tend to twist a little when you're making them. So I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers You grab your loops with your flat nose pliers and give them a slight twist and straighten them. They will both be at the same angle, and when I join them, my necklace will be very neat. With all my materials ready, I can now start assembling my necklace, but I'm just going to decide how I want my colours to be and what pattern I want. You can join your colours in twos and threes and blocks of colours. I've decided that I'm going to join mine as single colours, and I'm just going to change it ever so slightly because I quite like the yellow in between my cerise and my turquoise. So I think I'm going to stick to this pattern, and what I'm going to do now is link 5 beads at a time. So there's 50 beads in total on the necklace, 25 would be for each side, and I want it to be completely symmetrical. I'm going to start linking my beads together by taking a bead and opening one of the loops on it by twisting it either forwards or backwards. I then slip another looped bead on it and I close it with my flat nose pliers, making sure there are no gaps, and I repeat again. So I will carefully open my loop and slip the next colour on it and close it again with my flat nose pliers, and again open the loop by twisting it forward. Next colour, I will slip it on it. Just going to have to open that one a little bit more. Close it. It's really important to make sure at this point that there are no gaps or your necklace will fall apart. And again, I twist it forward. I put the other linked bead on it and I close it. So now I have a section of 5, and this is the pattern that I've decided I'm going for. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. I now have 10 sections, each one with 5 linked beads, and I'm going to join them to make my chain. I do it exactly the same as I did before. I pick up a section and I open the loop on the last bead and I slip another section on it, and with my flat nose pliers I close it. And again I open the link or the loop on the very last bead. I slip the 5 bead section on it and I close it. And again I will do this 5 times in one direction and then 5 times in the other direction, because I like it to be symmetrical going up the sides, but you could just do it continuous. So now I've got 5 of my sections linked together, and I'm just going to turn it around. So My the middle of my necklace will have 2 beads in the same color, and that means as it goes up the sides it will be identical. And I do the same thing again. I open the last loop on the bead and I slip a 5 bead section on it and I close it. So now I have a full length chain and I need to finish it off to make it into a necklace, and I will do this by putting a clasp on one side and I will put a little extender chain on the other side. So I will start off with a little clasp, and I like to join the clasp with a small 2mm jump ring. So open your jump ring and put the clasp on it, and then put the last loop from your chain on it, and then close it carefully. I'm going to finish off my necklace by adding an adjustable extender to the end. I've made it using 6 of my 5mm jump rings, and I've linked them together with my 2mm jump rings, and I'm just going to attach it to the last loop with a little 2mm jump ring. The very last thing I'm going to add is the bead that I've kept, which I'm going to put at the end of the extender. I feel it gives it a very professional finish, so I will just put the bead on my ball pin, and I'm quickly just going to cut it and loop it just like I did all the others. I'm going to open the last jump ring just a little bit and put this last little bead on it, and close it. And my link necklace is now ready. To make my second necklace, I'm going to be using 11 4mm bicone beads, 10 ball pins, 10 5mm jump rings, 7 2mm jump rings. I've got a round cast ring, it's about 1 centimeter in diameter, a clasp, and 40 centimeters of a fine gauge chain. I'm going to start off by getting my chain ready, and I'll be attaching 2 of the 2mm jump rings to each end. On one of them I'll be putting my clasp, and on the other one I'll be putting an extender, which I will make using my 5mm and 2mm jump rings. So I've made a little extender chain using 6 of my 5mm jump rings, and I've linked them with my 2mm jump rings, and now I'm just going to put it on the little jump ring that I've put on the end of my chain. This will help make the chain adjustable, and it's just a delicate finish. It's also the same as the extender that I've used on the other chain, so if you're wearing it layered as a twin set, it's very nice to finish them both the same way. Now I'm going to pin and loop my 11 beads. I put them all on a ball pin because I think it is a nice finish, but you can put them on a head pin if you prefer. And now that I've got them all pinned, I'm just going to bend them, cut them and loop them. I'm going to bend my wire with my flat nose pliers to a 90-degree angle. Then using my cutters, and I always hold them with the flat side towards the bead, I'm going to cut my pin to about 1 centimeter length. And then with my round nose pliers, just a short way down, I'm going to make my loop. So just grab it at the end and turn it back on itself to make your loop. As I'm going through my beads, I'm looking to see if the little loops that I made at the top are straight, because sometimes when you bend a loop, the loop can go either forwards or backwards or just be slightly leaning towards one side. But when you want it hanging off your necklace, you want it to be completely straight. So it's just a case of taking your flat nose pliers and giving it a little adjustment. You might have to just push it backwards or forwards or slightly to one side, but you really want it to be upright. I'm also going to double check that there are no gaps in my loops so that they don't fall off the jump rings. If there is a gap, you can just take your round nose pliers and then gently, in the direction that you closed it before, just give it another little twist and make sure they're fully closed. I'm now going to make 3 clusters. Each one of them will go on a jump ring, and I'm going to make 2 clusters which have 4 beads each. I've just noticed that my yellow bead has a little gap, so I'm just going to fix it before I put it on. Yeah. So now I can finish off my necklace, and the first thing I'm going to do is attach my 1 centimeter ring to the chain. I'm going to do it with a jump ring. I'm just going to carefully open my jump ring. Remember to always open it forwards and backwards, never to the sides, so that you doesn't get misshapen. So put your chain through the open jump ring, and then the ring, the 1 centimeter ring, and close it. Make sure there are no gaps. And next, I'm going to make my little cluster. So I'll start off by opening a jump ring, and I put it through my 1 centimeter. I put my 1 centimeter ring through it, and then I put my little beads on it. This is going to be a cluster of 4. And carefully close it. Again, making sure there are no gaps. So now I've got 1 cluster ready and on my ring, and I'm going to add next to it another cluster of 2. Again, carefully open the jump ring, with your flat nose pliers in a forwards and backwards motion, and put the ring, the 1 centimeter ring, through it. I'm going to add 2 beads this time, and close it. My 2 little clusters are ready, and I've got 1 more to go. I've got 1 little cluster left to make now, and this little cluster is going to attach to the jump ring that I've got going over the chain. I haven't put the jump ring through the links in the chain this time, so the chain just moves freely, and it means that I can attach a little cluster to it. Now I'm going to put my 4 looped beads over it, and I'm going to carefully close it. So my little cluster pendant is now ready, and all I've got left to do is put the last bead on the end of the extender chain. So my last bead goes on it, and I close it, and my little cluster necklace is now ready.